Cheers.
I like coffee with my coffee. I'm a no bullshit kind of girl. No room for creamer or that vanilla stuff either.
Hi, welcome to the very first emission of my best books of the year. Hopefully we will do the same next year, but first let's say goodbye to 2020 with all its glories. All the books in this competition were read by me, selected by me, alphabetized by me, so you will find a lot of personal bias. I picked 12 books to represent the 12 months of the year, but don't get too hang up with that because some of the books I read them in the same month, and there are months when I wouldn't have a pick to choose from as the best representing that month. So it's more symbolic, if you might say so. First book of the night, we have a classic of Russian literature, an intense bifocal story that takes us from a scandalous affair in the city to the perfect family life in the countryside. With millions claiming that they have read this book when they haven't, and they have only watched the adaptation by Keira Knightley, which is also a great film. Let's have a round of applause for Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. It was the year of 1877 when this book first amazed all its readers. It is the apotheosis of realism in literature. It covers everything from political views to religion to agriculture and marriage. It is truly a masterpiece, and it was a pleasure as always. Thank you, Mr. Tolstoy. After that powerful classic, we have the very last book I read in 2020. There are a couple of books in this list that I believe will become modern classics over time, and this is one of them. With a unique choral narrative that never stops to amaze the reader, give a big applause for Anxious People by Frederick Backman. The observations about life, adulthood, marriage, and the human nature that we encounter in this book are so poignant that I had to stop reading so I could digest what Backman was hitting me with. Lovely, flawed characters that are so broken that make you shatter into a million pieces. That are so broken that make you shiver with acknowledgement of all your own flaws within them. I feel this book can touch anyone. If you have that friend or cousin who's really not a reader, but you want to bless them with a book like this, I think they would totally enjoy it. Thank you for the reality and the magic, Mr. Back. The international phenomenon might be because of Timothée Chalamet, but the gold was in the writing since 2007. If you close your eyes, you might still hear the cicadas, smell the sweet Italian breeze, and feel how your heart shatters for the very first time due to the ache of love. Give a warm welcome to Call Me By Your Name by Andrei Aciman. I know I have a conflict with this author, but the man can write. The magic here is all in the narrative. If you're very into dialogue, you need to adjust your lenses before you read this book, but you have to read it. Because here we take a long, deep dive into the psyche of Elio, the 17-year-old boy, who experienced the ache of love and the mystery of love for the very first time. We get to be marveled by incredible writing, incredible prose, intense feelings and thoughts, and an intense experience. Thank you, Aciman, for giving us Elio whole. And for our fourth book, we have the 1815 classic with many screen adaptations, many misunderstandings, and an excellent comedy of manners. Make some noise for Emma by Jane Austen. This one was a difficult pick because this year I reread all of Jane Austen's novels, but the one I enjoyed the most this year was Emma. I often found myself defending this novel and its protagonist in front of all my classmates because I take it as a personal offense when people say that Emma is annoying when she is so funny. Such a perfect example of how ironic and funny Jane Austen was. Austen turns so free on this novel, and she often criticizes everything that she encounters through her characters, and Emma is just a caricature of those things that Austen is trying to make us realize. So please join the joke. Thank you, Miss Austen. Forever grateful and forever mesmerized. And actually, let's just turn a little bit dark and sour, shall we? Let's receive one of those books that you wish you would have read before, or like that you were born knowing. In this book is a book about the world without books. A book about censorship that ironically has been censored many times before. Big applause for Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Oh boy. You have, I think, almost 30 minutes of me talking about this book all the way back in summer. So let's just say that this book is a modern masterpiece. 2020 is really an apocalyptic year for many of us. But it kind of makes you happy to think that at least we're not here. Because I will definitely be the first one at the stake being burned alive because I wouldn't dare to burn one page of a book. Thank you for the warning, Mr. Bradbury. I'll do what I can. Our next book is one that hit close to home, maybe even too close. A book about identity, nationalism, growing up, and falling down. Please welcome I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erika L. Sanchez. I am not gonna cry again talking about this book, but this young adult book is one of those books that you just need to read. It's a must read, especially if you have kids, and especially if you are Mexican. Because I just want your daughters to be free of guilt. Do not feel guilty for wanting to leave home, for the life that they have dreamed about, because it is not our responsibility to stay home. We are not evil, we are not guilty. We are free. So thank you, Erika L. Sanchez, for reminding us that. For our next contestant, we have a fellow Mexican writer with a book that mixes your typical family unit to the thousands of families separated by the border. The search for identity and doing what is right when there are only echoes around you. Please give a big applause for The Lost Children Archive by Valeria Luiselli. An amazing narrative about this road trip with no final destination. A marriage also without a common destination. The background, rural America, the situation at the border as the soundtrack, and two kids at the back seat with their own language and their personal archives. Thank you, Luiselli, because you always inspire me. Okay, so let's move on to a story that broke me ruthlessly, but in the best way possible. A story about two 20-somethings that seem to always find their way back to each other, but also to always find a way to separate. Very real people, very broken people, very sensible people. I don't know, just give your warmest welcoming to Normal People by Sally Rooney. Hello. These characters are simultaneously the worst and the best people you could ever imagine. They represent what it's like to be in your early 20s. They represent what it's like to be in your early and confusing 20s. How exceptionally lonely it is. And how remarkable a connection with someone like you could be. Thank you so much, Sally Rooney. It was enchanting to meet you. Let's turn to another classic. This time, an American one from 1920, set in New York in the Gilded Age of money and status. Please receive with praise the best American novel of the 20th century, The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. Everything here is amazing. The detailed narration and descriptions, the free indirect discourse, the inclusion of what people would have said if they weren't too preoccupied to what is correct. The inclusion of what people would have said if they weren't too preoccupied with being proper. The improprieties of being a woman in want of your own freedom, the woman question, the sense of duty, the rejection of foreigners, the extension of a life that is so contrarian, that seems easy to live in the foreign eye, like we have, but that just resembles a golden prison. A life of discomfort while having all the comfort in the world. Dive in the irony. Thank you, Mrs. Wharton. Flabbergasting as usual. My poor heart. Bordering historical fiction with fantasy and romance, our next book follows a girl that lived 300 years in complete anonymity with the devil as her sole companion. Bring all that noise for The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by B.E. Schwab. With constellations on her face, Addie makes us wonder what would we be willing to give in order to be free. What is the importance of time, of names, of memories when you don't have them? Today, millions of readers remember her story and clung to her as a reminder of what you could lose, as a reminder of everything that we take for granted. Thank you, B.E. Schwabs, and I'll remember her, I promise. Now we have an actual historical fiction novel, because you know those are the ones I love. With two sisters front and center, we get to experience World War II from a female perspective. or more accurately from two female perspectives. The one who risks everything for her country, and the one who will do anything to save the one she loves from starvation and death. Please welcome with your loveliest applause, The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. Our French sisters go through everything, especially Isabel, our heroine. Makes us wonder what we will do in her situation. Could we be like her? Are we that brave to trust all our values and everything that is correct for a cause? Isabel is a character that I will never forget because she made me cry my eyes out, and she has this amazing story that is very likely that it was the actual story of someone that we've forgotten in history, because history is written by men. And everyone talks about those brave men at the front, but no one talks about the women at home. Thank you, Kristen Hanna, because I will forever wonder what would I have done to protect my country and the people I love. Our very last book, but equally important, is next. We have dark academia at its finest, beauty, poetry, a murder, cold weather, and colder people. A round of applause for the 1982 novel, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Every single day I think about Henry Winters. He's one of those characters that I wish I had a vacuum and I could like extract from the novel, save him from everything, and keep him in my cupboard. Safe. I think about his potential, I think about his brain, I think about his feelings, his heart, and how blessed we are to have known him. The Secret History is a dark story about madness, beauty, terror, academia, and friendship. We have disappointments in people that we thought they had all the answers. We have unlikely heroes. And we have the classical lesson of never wanting to act like a god. Because if you fly too close to the sun, there are only hard consequences waiting for you here in mortal land. Thank you, Donna Tartt, for giving me Henry Winters. Now I want to mention my wild card, because as you know, there are stories everywhere and we can find them in the unlikeliest places. So number 13 in this competition, we have Folklore and Evermore by Taylor Swift, our queen and saver. She blessed us with many stories in her songs. She took us to the lakes, to Betty's party, to the holiday house, to Coney Island, to a bar when two cowboys met each other. And she let us hear Marjorie sing to us one last time. Thank you, Miss Swift, for the stories. Our love lasts so long. These are the 12 books and 2 albums that I picked because they made me sane and crazy at the same time, and they got me through 2020, a year of chaos. Thank you for everyone that came along with me in this journey. Let's see what stories we get to experience in 2021. I am Isabel from Isabel's Digest, and I hope your year was blessed with amazing stories like mine was. Thank you for watching. I will see you all very soon in a new year, back to our normal schedule. Thank you for attending the very first emission of the best books of the year. Keep reading, and when you're not, follow me on all my social media linked down below, and bye!
Can I be your